Yeah, please.
Yeah. So today is day one, and these are the topics which we are going to cover today. So software testing overview, like what all we needed to do the software testing. That overview topic I will take. After that, we will learn about the SDLC, that is Software Development Lifecycle, and its various models. Also, we will look into it. Then we will work on the principles of testing. What are the principles? And once you understand this fundamental, next we will learn about the software testing life cycle. So this is software development life cycle, and this is software testing life cycle. Okay, and the next topic will be uh, software testing methods. So what all methods we required for software testing, we will cover here. Then software testing levels, uh, like what are the different levels of software testing, then software testing documentation, and then defect management process. Well, here we will also learn about the uh, defect defect life cycle, what is bug life cycle also, and then I will give you few interview questions which you can study, and if you have any doubts, you can come up with the doubts with me. I will happy to um, solve that doubts. Okay. So coming to the first topic, that is software testing overview. So an introduction of software testing. Software testing is defined as an activity to check whether the actual result matches the expected result. Right, so there is always we test that whether the actual result which we are getting is matching to the expected result or not. So this is all about software testing, right? That we check that actual and expected should match and ensure that the software system which we are testing is defect free. So finding the defects and checking that whether the whether the result is coming as per our requirement or not, that is the software testing. Testing of a software also involves the implementation of the product module system, part of evaluating all or some of its properties through testing. Tester can identify errors, bugs, which I have said, that bugs and the gaps and the requirement gaps or the missing element in the project, right, or a system, in the system which is testing. So it identifies the errors and the gaps. Okay. So that is the purpose of testing. Testing can be done both manually or with the help of the automation tool which are available in the market. So it all depends on your your client, that what he wants. He wants to do your manual testing as to test the manual through manual testing or through automation. Okay. So why testing is important in today's world? It is, yeah. Why testing is important? Because uh, today's world is completely dominated by machines and their behaviors, right? And is controlled by the software powering it. So, well, the machine behaves exactly as we want them to behave every time and everywhere. Yes. So, that is why this question comes, that why testing is important. So, if the machine are properly tested before we launch it, uh, it should behave as we want, right? If the testing done properly before the launch of the application and it is behaving as per what we are expecting, so if the application is properly tested, it is good. Otherwise, what will happen? It might get crash, right? So that's why testing is important. That should not crash when we actually try to run it, and it gives you a lot of error. That means it is crashing the application. So that's why we do the testing. So here testing plays a very significant role for testing the software so that it behaves properly and it should be bug free or defect free. Okay, so that's why testing do tester find the defects and remove the defects so that the application work without fail. Okay, so that's why testing is important. And now this comes into our mind that who does this testing? So this question answer is depend on the process and its connected project shareholders in the industry or the information technology. Big companies have their own team who bear the responsibility for evaluating the project or software based on the requirement during the test phase. Moreover, some bugs can get detected if proper testing is done and the development of the software of a software or the application. So people who can do testing are software tester, project developer, project lead, team manager, end user, everybody is involved in the process of testing. Okay. So to understand more, we will go to our next topic, which is software development life cycle. Okay. So, software development life cycle is the process of am I audible to everyone properly?
Yes.
Okay. So
Yes,
software
sir.
develop. Okay. Thank you. So software developing life cycle is the process which industry like each and every different industry are going to follow this, in which there are few steps which we have involved. So software developing life cycle, that is software developing life cycle aims us to develop a good quality product. Okay. So have anyone heard about software developing life cycle? I mean, um, it's for especially for the new person who has joined, Neelam. Do you understand? Do you heard of software development life cycle in your studies, as it is a manual testing? So
Yes,
have
of
you?
course. Yes. Yes, I
Yeah.
have. Yes.
Okay. So it involves few steps. That is, first phase is requirement phase. So requirement phase is nothing but gathering and analyzing the important information and collect the requirement from the customer or client as per the business need, and document those requirements in a business requirement documents specification. So in different companies it is known as different known in different names, which is some companies name as business requirement specification, which is BRS. Okay, and some companies name as CRS, which is customer requirement specification. Some says it's a use case, some says it's a it's a business requirement or business specification. So name could be anything, but it's a requirement document which is given to the what you can say to the business architect, and they analyze the requirement and understand from the client. Okay, so this is the requirement phase. They gather the requirement. The second is analysis phase. Once the requirement gathering and analysis is done, next step is to design the document, design and document the product requirement and get them approved by the customer. Okay, so this is done through SRS document, system requirement documents, that is software requirement specification document, and software requirement specification consists of all the product requirement that we design and develop during the life cycle. So this is like you can say this is the base of what we are gonna develop the uh, product. So this is the base of our project.
Yeah,
So the
just to
key,
add,
yeah,
this is the first phase of the software development lifecycle, requirement
right,
analysis. So,
requirement.
what we do typically, we need to collect the requirement by a product company, for example, or a service-based companies. We need to know what exactly the requirement from the customer. Accordingly, we design and develop the requirement document, as Shavi stated, and then we put it in a formal structure, and then we proceed with the other phases that Chavi is going to explain now.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So, so the key people involved in these phases are project manager. So the requirement things is done by project manager, business analyst, and some senior members of the team. And the outcome of this phase is software requirement specification, right? So now moving on the design phase has two steps. Okay, the high level design and the low level design. So in high level design we give the architecture of the product to be developed and to be done by the architect and the senior developer. Okay, so that is done by that is high level design. The second is low level design, in which we done the that is done by the senior developer. Here um, it design each and every product and should work, and how every component should work is noted down, like how it should be done. So that is low level design. Here only the design will be there and not the code. Only the designing part we will do, and not the code. And the outcome of this phase is high level document and low level document, which work as the input for the next, which is coding phase. Okay, which worked as a, so every step or every phase has some inputs and some outputs to give it. That here we get the requirements, and here we get the design, which is low level design and high level design, and that is the input for this coding. So so in coding phase what happened, developer of all level, like senior developer, junior developer, freshers, all are involved in this phase. This is phase where we start building the software and start writing the code for the product. The outcome of this phase is the source code document. So that is the outcome, and that is input for the testing, right? So there is always uh, a requirement which they get, and the output which they give to the next phase. Okay, so now talking about the testing phase. Here uh, here when the software is ready and it is sent to the testing team, they thoroughly find the different defects, you know. So that from the testing team they find the defects. They either test this with manual, or they test with the some automation tool, depend on the process defined in the software testing lifecycle, and also ensure that each and every component of the software work as per the requirement. Once the QA, that is quality analyst, make sure that the software is error free, it goes to the next stage, which is deployment. Okay. uh, Deployment phase, it goes to the once the error and all the defects has been removed from the product, then it goes to the implementation, and that is the output of the quality phase, that it will start the implementation. And once the deployment is done and implementation is done, the next step is to maintaining phase, which is after successful testing and the product is delivered, the software is deployed to the customer for their use. But after deploying also, the deployment is done by the development engineer. And once the customer start using the developed system, then also some problems comes. So fixing those issues that are raised by the customer, that comes in the maintenance phase. Okay, so uh, that is all about the uh, software development life cycle. So these are all different phases which we uh, which for every model which I'm going to cover, these phases are included. Okay, so just keep in mind that all these phases, and then we will discuss about the different model, that is waterfall model, spiral model. So here comes the waterfall model. Okay.
Chavin, one
Yes.
question about backslide,
Yeah.
previous slide, sorry.
Yes.
What is I mean by defining?
So defining and see these are requirement analysis which we are define and design it. I told you, no, analysis. Um, this is analysis phase. Analysis, we are doing analysis once the requirement we are gathered and analyzed. This in this stage we are analyzing. Then we start the designing. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Name might be different, but this could be requirement analysis, and defining is the analysis only. Okay?
Yeah, it's both are interlinked. Uh,
Interlinked. Yeah. Correct.
Neelam, yeah, interlinked, where it's just the name and terminology that we are using here. But most importantly, the requirement phase is the base in the software development lifecycle, which is the base, meaning the first phase. So in the analysis, whatever we do the analysis, that will be done in a structured way. That has to be documented in a structured way. For that, there will be some set of documents and process involved. That is, we are defining and we are implementing. Even before implementing, we are designing it in
Mm.
a structured way, like high level design and low level design.
Very
And then
nice.
the process continues: coding, testing, deployment, and maintenance. So that's how it is. And yeah, thank you.
Yeah, and there are so many, levels you can see if you search. No, in software testing, they could not be like same name, but there could be different names, and most of them are
Yeah.
like similar, working as a similar way. But this is just an example. So if you find uh, in the, what you can say, in the Google, if you search for software development life cycle, there could be different phases, but they work similar as I have explained to you just now. So moving on.
Just to add,
Yeah.
a requirement gathering. Who will do the requirement gathering? Generally, in a company, it is usually done by a PA, business
Yeah,
analyst.
business.
And sometimes, if it is a product owner does the requirement analysis based on the client's requirement, and he will prioritize the requirements, and he will instruct the development and testing team what needs to be picked up, and so on. That will be explained in the next cycles. So we have at the high level, we have two things. One is BRS, business requirement specification document, and the other one is software requirement specification document. Right? So business requirement document will be more in a business angle, whereas for software requirement specification will be more in a technical way. So how developers can understand the business requirement that will be translated into software requirement specification. So that's how it is. Generally, it is done, but it is subject to organization. And this cycle, what STLC has been mentioned, is generally followed in a software development lifecycle model. So does this answer your question? Okay, fine. So we can move on.
Okay. So now talking about the waterfall model. Okay. So what you understand with this is waterfall model is a very, what you can say, traditional model. This is a sequential design process often used in SDLC, in which the process is seen downs like waterfalls. Like here, this is the way waterfalls, right? So it includes different phases, such as same phases which SDLC follow, like requirement gathering, feasibility study, analysis, design, coding, testing, installation, deployment, or and maintenance. Every next step uh, is big, and once the goal of previous phase is completed, then only the next phase comes. So this methodology is preferred in project where quality is more important than schedule or cost. Okay, so this methodology is best suited for short-term project where the requirements don't change. And for example, like attendance management or a calculator, so their requirement won't change, because once you are done with this phase, then only you can go to this phase, and then this phase, and with this phase you cannot go to your previous phase. So that is the uh, that's why if the requirement is freezed, or there is no change in the requirement, that time we use this waterfall model. So benefits of using this model are: the requirement do not change, nor does the design and the code, we cannot change it. So we get a stable product, and this model is very simple to implement. So requirements are finalized earlier in the life cycle, so there won't be any chaos in the next phases, as they are all predefined, and requirement sources to implement this model are minimal as compared to other methodologies. And every phase has a specific deliverables. It gives high visibility of the project manager and the client about the process of the progress of the how the product is going to progress. So these are all the advantages. But what are the disadvantages? The main disadvantage of this is you cannot backtrack the process. That is not possible. So that backtracking, and you cannot go back and change the requirement. Once the requirement is done, you cannot go and change the requirement. So that is the drawback of the this process.
Yeah, just to add, Chavi,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yes.
you rightly said, that's correct. The output of the requirement will be the input for the design, as you said. So it's a
Hmm.
there is a dependency one after the other. So once the requirements are freezed, you can't go back. So that is the limitation, I would say, of a waterfall model. And a client has to be very clear when it comes to requirement and so on when we follow this kind of a waterfall model. So the when we go for this waterfall model, the client has to be 100% sure he knows what exactly he's looking for his particular application to look like. So requirement has to be correct and finalized, and then it will go on to design phase. And for the design phase, the requirement will be the input. Once the design phase is freezed, that is completed, then the next phase would be development. So for the development to happen, the design phase has to be completed. So as Shavi stated, we can't change. Suppose we the developers are started developing the development of that particular application only when design and requirement and design is complete. So we can't go back to design or requirement phase, that is the previous phases in this waterfall model. So that is the limitation in waterfall model. So this is one of the traditional models that has been followed over the years. So these six phases are very important in waterfall model. So there are different waterfall models that are available too in the industry that Chavi will explain. Thank you,
Yeah.
Chavi.
Yeah, and also it is not suitable for long-term project, right? Because in long-term project we have some requirements, so that is one more limitations or disadvantage. You can say that it is not good for long-term project. So that's all about waterfall model. Now going back to spiral model. spiral work as a iterative nature. It is a combination of both prototype like development model and a linear development model. Linear development means waterfall model. So uh, so it is combination of both, and this model plays a very important role in risk analysis. Mostly this model adopt large and complicated project where risk is very high. So where risk that time uh, risk analysis has been done. So that time we use this spiral model. Okay, so every iteration starts with a planning. Okay. There are four phases: planning, risk analysis, development and testing, and then evaluation. So for every iteration start with a planning and ends with a product evaluation by the client. So let's take an example of the product development team. Like suppose we take the example of Microsoft. Okay, so they know that there will be high risk, and they face lot of difficulty in the journey of developing and releasing the project. And also they know that there will be releases, as in Microsoft there are always like continuous release of the products when the current version is in existence, and they prefer spiral model to develop the product in a iterative nature. So they could release one version of the product to the end user and start developing the next version, which include new enhancement and improvement from the previous version. Um, right, as because this Microsoft releases, like suppose they release Windows 8 and improve it based on the user feedback and release a new improved version that is 8.1, and it went on like that. Okay, so mainly undergo phases are like in spiral model are planning phase, and in planning phase, there are requirement gathering, cost estimation, and resource allocation is being done. And the next phase is, as I told you, risk analysis phase. Here, the strength and weakness of the project is being known, and then comes you the design phase, design and the testing phase, where coding where we do the internal coding, testing, deployment in is being done here. Okay, and the last is evaluation phase, like client evaluation or client side testing to get the proper feedback. Okay, so benefits of this model are it allows requirement changes, and it also suitable for large and complicated projects. And the main thing is it allows the better risk analysis. So this is the new things which is introduced in the spiral model, that it is better for risk analysis, and it is very cost effective also due to good risk management. Okay, and the limitations, we can say that it is not suitable for small project, and the success of the project depend on the risk analysis phase. So yeah, this is all about the spiral model. Do you want to add anything, Anand, here, or this explanation is good? So we can go to the
Yeah,
next
it's
topic.
pretty good. Just to add one small thing, in
Yeah,
a spiral model, it is also called incremental model, as you see in the diagram.
yeah,
So we are starting with a small phase in the inner circle, and which actually covers planning, risk analysis, development and testing, the third phase, and finally the evaluation done by the customer. So this is a iterative and incremental, meaning, as Chavi told, we have several versions. For example, for Windows, so they introduce some features, and in the next phase they come up with 8.1, or it can be if it is a minor release, and then or it can be Windows 9, and now currently we are in Windows 10. So they adopt, the big companies, they adopt this kind of a spiral model for their developing their application. It can be operating system, or it can be chat application or anything. But this model, they start with a small feature, they release it so that the customers who are waiting for this particular application to use, they can use with a version 1 which has limited features, and then they parallelly develop other features in version 2, version 3, or subversions. So it is called incremental model. Spiral model is an incremental model. And likewise, we have different models in incremental, prototype and agile also. But this spiral model is one of the incremental models that are available in the industry. Okay, that's it, Chavi. Thank you.
Yes. Moving further, we have uh, principles of testing. So testing software or any application, we use some of the principles that are mentioned here are which are first these principle plays a very significant role for software testing and to test it any project or anything any web application. So these are very, plays a very vital role in that. So software testing can help in detecting bugs. So the main objective of software testing is to find the bugs. So software helps to reveal the bug that may or may not be detected by the developer. Okay. So however, testing of software alone cannot confirm that your product is bug free, but it helps you to give you the good quality product by removing the defects in your project. So you can say that if you are done with the testing, then also if you say that it is bug free, so it is not like that, but it ensures that you are giving a good quality product. Okay. So next is effectiveness testing. So testing with the effectiveness is basically impossible. So what is this? Until your project or the application under test has a straightforward structure having limited inputs, it won't be likely or achievable to check all the feasible set of data model or scenarios. So the effective testing, for effective testing, we need to do the uh, we need to do the proper testing. And as I said, uh, like 100% testing is not possible, which is not feasible in testing, but that's what we try to do it as the product as good as possible. Okay. Third principle is early testing. So as soon as we start our testing, it will be give you the good quality product. So the early you will begin to test your project or your software will be better to find the bugs and to find the good number of bugs you can find if you start your testing early. Okay. The next is defect in clustering. Okay, so on the time of testing, you observe that majority of your defects or bugs are reported in a small number of modules inside your software or the system. That is called defect clustering. So there are some modules which are very complicated, or it is um, it it gives challenges when they are developing. So that is called a defects in clustering. So most of the defect you found in that part of the model. So that is defect clustering. Next is testing is context dependent. That means an error free or a bug free software is a myth. Right. So you cannot say that once your product is deployed, then it is error free. No, after deploying, after the customer use also, you see that there is a there could be the customer also find some bugs or defects. So that means their testing is context dependent. So that there is also maintenance phase. So that is a, sorry, is anybody
Yeah.
asking any
So
question?
one simple question. Have anybody seen a product or an application which is error free? Which is error free? Have anybody seen any product or an application which we are using, including our mobile, for example? Have you noticed any defects or cosmetic? It can be cosmetic, look and feel, or it could be some functional issues. Have you observed any application like that? It can be anything that we use daily. It
Hmm.
can be on our mobile or anything. So, guys, have you noticed anything like that? Be interactive. I mean, it will be more interesting and more. You will learn more when you interact. So,
Yeah,
the
yeah,
principles of
we've
testing.
never seen it. Yeah, mostly we find
Yeah,
defects and bugs.
Yeah. So that is
correct.
that is all the
So,
concept of.
Essential, yes.
Mhm.
correct. So, correct, Neelam. So, basically, why we need to do testing? To find the defects and to improve the quality. How do you define a quality when it comes to testing? Basically, we need to deliver the product or a project on time and within budget, right? So, if we are delivering the project after 1 month than the scheduled time, can we term it as a, can we call that as a quality timeline, quality product? No, because we are extending beyond the deadline. Secondly, if we are delivering the product on time, but it is exceeding the budget, in that case also we can't call it is a quality. So quality comes with many parameters: delivering the product on time and within budget. So all these principles we need to adapt when we are doing the testing, and it has to be delivered as much as possible defect free. The last bullet point is important.
Yeah.
So of course error free is not possible, but do the can we improve the quality as much as possible without defects? That should be the objective when it comes to testing. So I hope you are able to follow what I'm saying. Everybody, Neelam, Nitin, Radhika, Rupali, I am sure a couple of you are from the testing background, needless to say that. But since
Mhm.
Neelam, you are quite new to testing, of course, it is not a rocket science, but this is testing is more of a common sense, right? So we had to go and test as per the requirement. And we need to adopt these principles when it comes to testing. Yeah. Thanks, everyone.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you, Anand. So coming next, we have V model, which is verification and validation model. So to understand this model, let's understand the verification and validation in software. So can anyone tell about what is verification or validation? Then I will explain this model. Anyone? So
Verification
yeah,
means the reviews we get it from the users like that.
uh, review, like verification is an analysis
Okay.
technique. Yeah. So
Okay.
we analyze that. Um, you know that wo- that's what I said, that expected and actual should match. So that is verification. It's a static analysis technique. It is done without executing the code. Okay, so we will just inspect or walk through or review that what is verification. And the validation is dynamic analysis technique where testing is done by executing the code, for example functional or non-functional testing. So that is called, that is verification and validation. Validation is mainly dynamic and verification is mainly the static phase, the static analysis. Okay, so in this model the development and QA activity are done simultaneously. So this is the development activity and this is the QA activity which take part simultaneously. I mean, as soon as the um, you know as soon as the development life cycle is started, our testing is also started. So that is called side by side of everything. So in this model, what we see is there is no um, uh, like uh, like rather starting the testing uh, after the completion of the coding. We have started the testing on the requirement phase only. Okay, so the verification and validation activity go hand in hand. So just have a look on this figure that as you can see, the left side shows the development activity and the right side shows the testing activity. Okay, so first we will talk about the left side. As we know, the left side activity is the development activity. Normally, um, we feel that testing can be done by the after the development. But here, what we have done, testing can be done with the with the requirement with the user requirement only. Okay, so this is the beauty of this V model. What is that? The testing phase has started early. That is the very important like interview question also. In interview question also they will ask you that in testing in V model when the testing started. So you will say that as soon as the requirement gathering starts, then the testing has been started. Okay, so here requirement are collected. So as we see the left hand side, the requirement are collected and studied. So here how the system is implemented is not important, but what the system is supposed to do is more important, like brainstorming session and walkthrough interview. All this comes in this um, all this comes is the objective of this. Clear? So verification activity like requirement review, validation activity like like creating of your acceptance testing test cases is done in this phase. First phase only. What we will do, all the you can say the preparation of your acceptance testing has been done here. Okay, so what you find here is requirement under testing document has been prepared, user acceptance test cases has been prepared. So these are all the outcomes of your first phase, which is acceptance test plan, you can say. Okay, so this is all about the user analysis phase. Now talking about the software specification. In this, there is high level design of software is built. In this team study and investigate how the requirement could be implemented and the techniques, um, technical feasibility of the requirement is also studied here. Okay, so uh, so it is based
Just
on,
to add
yeah.
few things, two things, just a small, I'll keep it short. What
Mhm.
exactly verification and validation? How do you define it? Anybody? Chavi knows, of course, but for the new people, it could be anybody. So, what exactly is verification and validation? How do you define it? So, as Chavi told, on the left hand side, a development phase, and to the right, it's a testing phases. That's correct. So, but when in the interviews, probably they will say, you are a when it comes to V model, verification and validation. How do you differentiate verification versus validation? Any idea? Anybody? So
No,
let me explain.
no.
Yeah, Rupali, go ahead.
Yeah, no. I say no. I don't have any idea.
Okay, okay, Rupali
I
and
think
everybody.
I can take a this thing.
Yeah. Please go ahead.
So
Yeah, please go
verify
ahead,
is
Neelam.
basically it's at design level. So you check the design because the system is not ready yet, right, for testing. So you check the design and see if the design is making sense according to the requirement. And validation is
Correct.
where you are actually so parallel levels should be verification, right? So when the user requirement, the parallel, but when you go from down to
Mhm.
up, that should be validation, where you are actually validating the
Mm.
models. I am thinking.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So just to add, you are there, almost there. So verification is onto your left, which is nothing but static testing. The process of verifying the developing application is right or not. Am I right? Why it is called static testing? Because we are mostly we are referring to the documents, right? The user requirement document, software specification document, high level design document, low level design, and so on. So the process of verifying that developing application is in the right direction or not, mostly we are referring to the documents, which is nothing but static testing. On to the right, coming to the right side of the V model, it is validation, right? So what we are doing in a validation, dynamic testing, meaning once the application is ready, once the coding is ready, once the coding is done for a particular phase, we start testing the application, right? So we are doing the validation, which is nothing but dynamic testing. So the process of validating the developed application, it can be phase one, phase two, and so on. So there are two things. Verification is static testing. Validation is dynamic
Right.
testing.
Right.
All right. Yeah. So
Yes.
I hope you got a glimpse and an overview of what is verification and validation.
And
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah.
and it's a very important topic for interview. Means most of the
Right.
interviewer ask this, that what is verification and what is validation. So if you have any doubt,
Absolutely.
you can clear here.
Yeah.
So
Anand, can
so
you
Yeah.
tell
here,
me one more time about verification? Means we are testing the
Sure.
application across the document.
Right. Rupali, I will repeat. So verification is a static testing,
Mm-hmm.
meaning
hmm,
the process of verifying that developing application is in the right or wrong direction. That is, onto the left side, you see the documents, right? User requirement document, software specification document, and so on. Am I right? Onto the left side of the V model.
yeah,
So we are
here
mostly referring to the documents. So
documents
that
here.
is nothing but verification. And what we are doing as part of the, why do we need to verify the documents? First, we'll get into the basics. Why do we need to verify the document? Because we need to check whether the documents are structured and written in a as per the requirement. Am I right? Are we doing any testing here in the verification phase onto the left side
No,
of static testing?
no.
No,
No.
we are doing testing. We are doing testing, which is nothing but static testing. That is, we are referring and cross checking the documents whether it is aligned with the requirement or not. Right? That is also testing. So that is called static testing, which is nothing but verification. So once the documents are ready, then what happens? The coding starts, right? The developers will refer the high level and low level design documents,
This
and they
yes.
start coding the application based on the inputs and based on the document that is defined in the high level, lower level design documents. And they start the coding. Once the coding is done, typically it will be built and then it will be deployed on a particular environment, on a test environment. And who does the unit testing? Usually it is done by the developers only, because it is at the coding level. It requires a coding knowledge, unit testing. So what is integration testing? Basically, let's say we have login, logout, and we have some transactions and we are checking in and checking out. So couple of modules are depending on other module. A module A is depending on module B. So that is nothing but we need to know how two modules are interdependent and how tightly they are coupled. So we do integration testing and system testing, end-to-end testing, all these things. So on to the right side, coming to validation, dynamic testing. It is called dynamic testing. That is the process of validating the developed application, right? So they give the coding and we need to take up and we need to do different types of testing once the coding is ready. That is called validation. So which is nothing but dynamic testing, which we are doing on the application. Whereas a verification we are doing on the static testing by referring the documents. So I hope did I clear your doubt,
Yes, yes,
Rupali?
very clear, Anand.
Yeah, thank you. So any other doubts before we move on to verification and validation, or whatever the slides that we have completed? The intention is to learn and unlearn few things and relearn the misconceptions also. So that is why this interaction is very important, because certain things which we have ambiguous, we are sometimes it is abstract. Even though we are working in the industry for a couple of years, it may not matter. But if we are strong in the concepts, then we can effectively do the adapt and actually do the testing. But we are talking mostly the different models. There are so many things involved in testing, but this knowledge and the overview will certainly help. Okay, so any other questions before we move on to the next slides? Anybody? If not, we will move on.
Yeah. So
Thank
now
you.
we come. Yeah, thank you, Anand. Thank you so much. So now we move to the software testing life cycle. So software testing life cycle is a sequence of specific activity. Okay, or you can say that it's a testing process which is executed in systematic and planned manner. Okay, in software testing life cycle process, there are different activities that are carried out to improve the quality of the product. So these are the various stages of our software testing life cycle, which is called as STLC also. So the first phase is again here also requirement analysis. So this is the first phase of software testing life cycle. In this phase, the QA team understands the requirement, okay, in terms of what we are testing and figuring out the testable requirement. Okay, so if there is any conflicts or any missing or any not understood of any requirement, then QA team will follow up with the various stakeholders like business analyst or system architecture, or if they are also not available, then we will go to the client or technical manager to understand the better, like better, you can say the out better of the software, that how, if there is any doubt, so clear it and understand the detailed knowledge of the requirement. Okay, so that is all about the requirement analysis. After that, we have planning phase. Okay, so test planning. So test planning is the most important phase of the software testing lifecycle, where all the testing strategy, like there is one more interview question, that what is test strategy, right? So test strategy are defined here, okay, in this phase, and this phase is also called as test strategy phase. In this phase, typically test manager is involved to determine the efforts or the cost estimation for the entire project. I mean, entire testing, how much it is how much it cost. So all this um, will be planned here, okay, in this phase. So when the requirement gathering or the requirement analysis phase is completed, and based on the requirement analysis, we'll start preparing the test plan and the result of the planning phase. Uh, so test plan is also prepared here test plan, or you can say test strategy. So these are all the testing efforts estimation documents once test planning phase is completed. So the output of this is test plan and test strategy and the estimation document. Okay, so that is the outcome of this test planning. Now comes the next stage, which is test case development. Okay, here what we do, we start writing our detailed test cases, uh, and along with the test cases, testing team also start preparing the test data. Test data is also prepared here for the testing. And once the test cases are ready, then these test cases can be reviewed also by our peer members, or a QA lead will review those test cases, and also the requirement traceability matrix is also prepared. So which is called RTM, right? Requirement traceability matrix, and it's okay.
So why do we need RTM, guys?
Yeah.
What is RTM? As Chavi stated, we are tracing the requirements as per
Back
the requirements backward, and we are
and
making
forward.
sure
Yes.
all the requirements are covered at the time of testing. So the most important thing is requirement traceability matrix will help us to determine how much coverage are we doing when it comes to testing. So the management team will ask, are you doing 100% coverage of testing for your application?
Mm.
So how do you
Mm.
ensure you're doing the 100% coverage for your testing when it comes to testing? The RTM report, requirement traceability matrix report, we had to refer for each and every requirement, be it login to logout, in between transactions of any application. For everything, we have a coding convention, that is 1.a, 1.b, 2, 2.1, something like that, right? So for every small features or a requirement, we had to ensure there is a format, RTM format, which we can share it later.
Yeah.
So we had to ensure how many test cases are we writing against that particular requirement, and we need to see to it at the time of testing, those test cases are covered as per the requirements. So to
Yes.
ensure we are covering 100% testing or not. That is the main purpose of having requirement traceability matrix. Am I correct, Chavi?
Yes, and it's very important interview question also. What is RTM?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. So many times interview ask about you that what is RTM and which phase it is developed, and what's the use and how it track you from backward for traceable, like how you can trace it backward and forward. Like once you are developed with the RTM, you can always track your test cases, right? Thank you, Anand. So after this, you have to set up the environment for your testing. So here, test environment setup comes. This in this phase of software testing, basically test environment decide on which conditions software is tested, and um, it is an independent activity. Okay, so before starting your like test cases development, you can start the test environment setup also, because this is independent of what test cases development is. So once the preparation of test cases development and test environment is done, then comes the test execution phase. In this phase, what you will do, you will start executing your test cases um, based on the preparation prepared of test planning and test preparation of what you can say test cases in um, okay. So based on that, you can how the test cases will be executed, what are the like what are the modules you wanted to execute first. So based on that, you will start executing your test cases. Okay, so finally we have the test cycle closure, which is called test reporting. So once the test cases is passed or failed, or it is marked, what are logs you have created, so that comes under test reporting. So you'll report that um, logs to your what you can say, to your client, or wherever you wanted to send as per your process. So you start sending the test reports. Okay. So this also involves the bug tracking. Okay, in this reporting, you also, like while executing, you will find some bugs. So that also you will report it by filing the bugs in your what you can say, in your tools, that these many bugs you have find. Then that is also comes under the test reporting. Okay, so these are the various phases involved in software testing life cycle. Okay, now coming to the next types of software testing. So there are two types of software testing. One is manual testing and one is automation testing. Okay, so here what all we studied here is um, I mean, this can be implemented both for manual testing also and automation testing also. Okay. So for automation testing, we need a tool, like for example, Selenium. We are going to study Selenium. So Selenium is an automation tool which we are going to study here. Okay. So here we comes the how the automation beats the manual testing. So manual testing is, as I can say that it's in the introductory session I have explained all these, like manual testing is extremely time consuming. It is high risk of error, as we as human are testing this testing our software. So there is a high chances of um, human errors could happen here. Requirements, it require all the time, it require a tester to be present in there for executing those test cases. uh, Manually we have to create your log, and the responsibilities are to send all those logs to different client or the project manager. You have to do it all manually, and it is a limited scope. Why? Because every time when you get your what you can say, every time when you get your build, that time you don't have the luxury to execute all your test cases. You have to choose few of your test cases to execute, and that way you are limiting your scope of the testing, because you cannot execute all your test cases which you have written every time when you get a new build. So that is how you are limiting your scope of testing which is required for your project to execute all the test cases, but it is not possible manually. So here comes the automation testing. Testing is very fast and uh, what you can say, frequent execution. You can um, execute your once you have written all your test cases, it's very fast to execute your test cases. Why? Because once you start your test cases, you don't need to sit there physically. That automation test cases can be executed automatically, and it is more accurate, and it has less investment in your human resources, and also it saves your time, and it is very cost effective also, because Selenium is, as you see, Selenium is in open source, it's available free, so that way it is cost effective also. And early time to market, as you see that you have saved all your time in execution, and you know it is very fast execution you have done. So you can deliver your product pretty fast, and that way you can market your product early. Okay, and it supports retesting, like it can do regression testing, retesting. So once your test cases has been scripted, you can execute those test cases any number of times. So that way it supports retesting. Okay, so this is all about the benefits of automation testing. Now comes the software testing methods. So there are mainly three methods of software testing, which is black box testing, white box testing, and gray box testing. Okay, so these are the three methods of testing. Black box testing is like when you cannot see anything inside what is there in the box and you are testing it. Okay, so you cannot see the code. As the name said, it's black, so you cannot see the code through it. Okay, you are just testing the what you can say, the UI which you have given to you, and you don't know inside what is there. And white box testing is you can see your code, whatever, as the name says, that you can see through it that what code you are testing. So that is called white box testing, which usually unit testing is white box testing, which is done by the developer. So this is you can say this is also the difference between black box testing and white box testing. Okay, so black box testing is also called as behavioral testing. Okay, and white box testing is also called as glass box testing. Okay, so these are the two different testing. I hope it is clear. If there is any doubt, you can ask. Okay, so next is I will explain about the black box testing. Black box testing is a software testing method in which the functionality of software application are tested without having the knowledge of internal code structure or the implementation detail and the internal path. We are not knowing those things, and we are just started testing. So black box testing mainly focus on the input and output of software application, and it is entirely based on the software requirement specification, which is called as SRS. Okay, so it is also known as behavior testing, as I told you. So this is all about the black box testing. Now, white box testing is a software testing technique in which internal structure, as you can see in the diagram also, that you can see the internal structure and you know that what design or coding of the software you are testing, and you verify the flow of the input and output, and to improve the uh, design or usability and the security um, of the software. In white box testing, code is visible to the tester. So it is also called as clear box testing or open box testing, or you can say transparent box testing, code based testing, or class box testing. Okay. So these are all the same name of white box testing, similar name. Okay. Now comes the gray box testing. So gray box testing is a software testing method which is a combination of both white box and the black box testing. It is a technique to test the software product or the application with partial knowledge of the internal working of an application. So you like partial knowledge of coding is there in the gray box testing. So the purpose of this testing is to search for defects as others testing. So this also is the purpose of this testing is also find the defects due to improved code structure or improper functionality of the um, usage of an application. Okay, so that is the combination of both the testing is called as gray box testing. Okay. coming next is functional and non-functional testing. Okay. So functional testing is performed before the non-functional testing. Okay, so functional testing is basically done basically based on the customer requirement. Okay, so functional testing includes unit testing, acceptance testing, smokes testing, integration testing, regression testing. So functional testing can be done manually. Okay, so you can do these testing manually, but non-functional testing is like performance testing, scalable testing, volume testing, load testing, stress testing. You cannot do this manually, right? Because, for example, if there is any site as a, like say suppose Facebook site, okay? So in Facebook, uh, like 100, how you test the performance testing, like hundreds and like thousands of people will log in at the same time, and then you check the performance, that how this application is performing. So manually it is not possible that thousands of people are logging at the same time. So this is basically done by the tools. Some of the tools, like uh, in that tool there are different tools are available where you can test the non-functional testing, but we are not focused on non-functional testing, we are focused on the functional testing only. But just to make you understand that these are the two different types of testing which are available. So non-functional testing is always performed after the functional testing. So it always performed once the like functional testing is been done, then the non-functional testing are gonna perform. So this is based on the customer requirement. This is based on the customer expectation. That they are expecting that all these things should be tested in their application. Okay. So this is all about functional and non-functional testing. Clear? Um, Anand, do you have anything to add on this? Or this is good.
Yeah, this is good, Cherry. It covers
Okay.
pretty much everything at the high level, and
Yeah, it's
very
just the
nice.
high level.
Thank you
Yeah.
so much.
Okay, thank you. So coming to next, that as I told in the today's topic also, software testing levels. So these are the different levels of um software testing. First comes the unit testing, then the integration testing, system testing, and acceptance testing. So these are just to give you, like as an interview question, I have given you the level. That you don't get confused that what are the, if someone asks you what are the different levels of the testing, so you don't get confused, which is same as we have learned before also in all our V models and all those things. uh, so just to give you an hands-on, that these are all the levels of the testing. Unit testing comes first, as Anand also told, that unit testing is just done by the developers. In unit testing, basically that is white box testing, which I have explained you, that code is being like the internal coding or internal uh, design of the product, and then you do the unit testing. Integration testing is basically when you have a different modules and you wanted to integrate it uh, and combine it together and then do the testing. That is called integration testing. And then the system testing, when you do all the functional testing in your system, that comes the system testing. And acceptance testing is done by mostly by the user, or it can be done by the tester also. So that is acceptance testing. Okay. So now we have some you can say software testing documents which we prepare. So these are some of the documents which we prepare before starting our testing. So first is test plan. So this is the document which describes the software testing scope and activities, and it is based on the um, formal. I will show you how to prepare it. First, I will explain in here. It is a it's the basic like formally testing any software or product in a project. Okay, so this is a document which describes the scope and approach and resources and schedule, and also that how is the how environment you will set up, and what's the entry criteria of your project, what is the exit criteria of the project. So all these things comes under test plan. Okay, so how this is created? So test plan is created like see, you have a test number, then you have a target type, like which is your target, then target is your website, which website you are testing. Okay, then target files, like login files, no? All this registration file, all these files comes here, all the pages you can say. Okay, then comes the test name. So whether it is unit testing or you can say regression testing, what all testing has have. So here comes the test name. Then the test purpose. So what is the purpose of testing? So test situation, that clicks are working or not, or this button is working or not, or this field is working or not. So all these situation comes under this. Then expected output and the actual output. Okay, and this is how you create your test plan. And here outcomes and action, if it is required, so that comes. So see, the test plan for different companies, there could be different ways of creating the test plan. So this is just an example. Maybe in your company, the test plan could be created in some other way. So test plan just provide you the the overall strategy which we will implement for testing the application, and the resources which will be needed, and also this will be like how to describe your project, and it also holds the detail of which environment test will be performed. So so this is all about the test plan, how it is created. Okay, so again I said that it is also based upon your company, that how the test plan is created. It could vary little bit from here and there. Okay, next comes the test scenario. So Anand, do you want to add something on test plan?
Yeah, just a quick update on the test plan.
Yeah.
Basically, test plan is a roadmap that defines the entire testing activity. As described in the first line, it is a document, a reference document for anybody to refer to get the glimpse and overview of what is that we are planning to do for this particular application. So once we refer a test plan, it should give us what is the scope of testing, and how many and what are the things that we need to test, what are the resources, training plans, test environments. All those things will be part of test planning, usually done by a test lead or a test manager. So it gives an entire roadmap. It gives a roadmap for the entire testing activity. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Any questions to anybody? Okay.
okay, so next comes the test scenario. So it can be considered as a single line statement which notify the area in which your application will experiment. Okay, so this is an artifact, you can say, which is needed for ensuring the overall procedure tested for from start to finish. So that is all about the scenario that your test where you need to have your use case ID. I will show you as an example. Again, here. So you can have your use case ID, your requirement ID on which you are working on, and what are the test scenarios and how many test cases are required. That is to test number of test cases required for that particular scenario. Suppose for a particular scenario, you need to have these many test cases. So you can document all those in one test case scenario. Okay, clear. So this is all about the test case scenario where you have where you can define your particular scenario that how many test cases are required. So what is test case now? It engage in collected test steps and conditions with input which can be implemented at the time of testing. Okay, so test cases actually focus on making sure whether the product went through a set of test cases and face any means such as functionality or other aspects. So there are many types of test cases. Like, there is one type is in which you write test case ID. Okay, so like login, for login, these many test case ID you have 1, 2, 3, 4, like that. So many. And then comes the test case name. So test case name could be anything, whichever you wanted to write. So this is the just a format of test case. It can vary from company to company. Okay, so what are the owner is admin or user or anything could be the owner. State means whether it's a draft, in which state it is drafting state or it is under review state. Okay, so this is the state of the what you can say the test case. Now comes the test case description, like it describes you and verify that as you are talking about the login, so it verifies that login which you have entered is valid or not. Okay, so like that you have so many descriptions of your depends on your test case. Okay, so these are the description of your particular test case. Okay, now comes the precondition. Precondition is whether the Facebook site, that site, particular site which you are testing is exist or not. So these are all the preconditions that you will launch this site, or you have all the site available with you. So this comes under precondition. Then you have post condition. Okay, so post condition is that pages still exist or not. Otherwise, the later test case won't be executed. So that comes up under post condition. Then there you have the expected result and the actual result and the comment. Clear? So this is the just one of the example of test cases. As I said, it may vary from organization to organization. There could be some more steps could be added in your test cases or deleted.
I have a question. So
Yes.
for the test scenario and the test case, you showed exactly the same Excel sheet, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
is it,
Actually, test scenario is like, suppose you have, yeah, you
so
complete your question, then I
yeah,
will
so
ask.
the test scenario is literally a stack of test cases, right? So
Right.
all these test cases together will make a test scenario, right?
Right, right.
Is that what
You
you're saying?
understood correctly. Yeah, you understood correctly. So test scenario could be one scenario like login page. Login page is one scenario. In those pages, or you can say um, there is one scenario in which you have number of test cases could be available. Correct? So you understood correctly.
Thank you.
Then comes the traceability matrix. So it contain as I've already told you, the traceability matrix is the what you can say, it contains in a tabular form in which you write uh, all your test cases, and then you can check that whether you have uh, covered all your scenarios. I mean, that comes all the test cases and all the expected result and the actual result. So is that you can trace it at any point of time during your testing, and check that whether you are covering your particular, what you can say, you're not covering all the particular scenarios, and what you can say, the SRS document or all the requirement document is fulfilling or not. So that is traceability matrix. Clear? As traceability matrix we have already covered. So that's what is. Can you hold on for a minute? Anand, can you take it for just 5 minutes? I'll be back. You can
Yeah, yeah, sure.
take this topic and then we will continue. I'll be back in 5 minutes.
Right, right, sure. So guys, any questions so far on the test plan, scenario, test case, traceability matrix? Is it clear or you need any clarification? So till Chavi is back, we can have a discussion on any topic that we have discussed so far on software testing. Any questions? All clear?
So my question is, there's a lot of overlap, right, between all these documents. That's the way I'm
Yeah.
understanding. Even the traceability matrix seems to be a lot of overlap in this.
Mm-hmm.
Is that right? Do I
Yeah.
understand it right?
Yeah. Meaning, so is like we have a test scenarios and test cases, right, Neelam? So we have for any application, like let's say 100 test cases we have written. How do we write the test cases? We write the test cases based on the requirements. Am I right? And the traceability matrix, we are actually covering to ensure whether we are covering all the requirements or not. There is a specific format in traceability matrix wherein we can uh, gather all the requirements 1.0, 1.0a, 1.b, something like that, and on to the next column in the traceability matrix, which I can show you in the next class. I'll have to search for it. So to ensure all our test cases are covering as per the requirement or not, to ensure the coverage, so these are all I would say interlinked, right? Traceability matrix document is a reference document to ensure where the test cases what we have written is covering all the requirement aspects. Otherwise what happens, we have some 10 requirements and we write 8 to 9 test cases, 8 to 9 test cases for 8 to 9 requirements. For one minor requirement we may miss out to write the test case due to overlook or due to some miscommunication. So this traceability matrix will help the management to ensure we are doing the 100% coverage as per the requirement. Right. So test plan, coming to test plan, a test plan gives a roadmap for the entire testing activity, right? So it can be environment, deliverables, entry criteria for the testing, when we have to start the testing, when we have to end the testing, the budget or the team size, what is the scope of testing, what are the environments that we need to test, meaning the testing manager says, test manager, the management says, you need to cover the testing on both Chrome and Firefox. Let's say a simple example. So then it has to get documented in the test plan. Why? Because the effort required to test will be more if we have to cover on all the browsers or on the leading browsers. Point number one. Second point is they will also expect us to test on Windows as well as on Mac operating system. Mac. It has to be compatible to both the operating systems. So in that, then what happens? Our work will be doubled, right? So the scope and the effort will be determined, and we need to mention clearly in the test planning so that the testing team will be aware what need to be tested and where all we need to test, which browsers, which operating systems, coverage, and so on, because the applications should support different browsers, that is cross browsers as well as cross platforms. Need not be all applications. Again, it depends from company to company, the scope of application to application, and so on, right? So all these things are required to document in a test plan so that we can estimate the effort required based on the scope of testing, and accordingly we can plan our budget, right? So that is the importance and significance of a test plan. And once we have a clear cut understanding on the test plan, we can come up with the test scenarios and write the test cases, and to cross check how we are doing the progress, and so on when it comes to coverage of test cases, traceability matrix. So does this answer your question, Neela?
Yes, thank you so much. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Thank you,
So
Anand.
now, yeah. So go ahead, Charu.
Chavi, before you start, I have some housekeeping question. How long will this last till, this session
Sorry,
today? When?
8:30. 8:30. Oh, sorry. It is 1.5 hour session. Just, I have like 2 more slides. Then
Which
we
is
are
fine.
done.
I'm not running late. I just want to sort of give an estimate to my kiddos. Okay, thank you so much.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Sorry about that. Mm, that break. Okay. So moving on, we have defect management. Okay. So in defect management is a process that can be defined as a process of detecting defects and fixing them. It is necessary to say that bugs occur constantly in the process of software development. So as and when we are getting the defects, we have to file those defects and then rectify that defect, and then we have to uh, retest those defects. So that all comes under this defecting management. Okay. So uh, sorry. So usually developer develop the product and test themselves. However, it is not the best practice. Okay, so I'm just explaining you a little bit that how the process goes. That uh, when you are like you can say developing any product, so it is developed by the developer, and it is set to the developer that you only do the testing and find the bugs and uh, fix those bugs. But it is not a very good practice to do that, because why? Because as you can say that you cannot find your uh, own defects on your own system with what you have developed. So that's why tester comes into the picture, and they find those defects which the developer are not able to find from their own mistakes. Their own mistakes is very difficult to find, right? So that's why the uh, tester comes into the picture. So this involves 4 steps, like defect detecting. Second is formulation of the bug report, bug fixing, and the bug list creation. Okay. So the first thing is defect detecting. Regardless of the type of testing, any type of testing you can do, the main goal of testing is to find the defects. Whatever testing process you say, you can choose, but the uh, like objective of a tester should be to detect the bugs. Okay. So this also could be an interview question, that what is the main purpose of a software tester? What should be the main purpose? To find the defects. So that is the first answer that that should come in your mind, that the first main objective of a software tester is to find the defects. And next step of this defect management is formulation of a bug report. Okay, so once you have find the bugs, you should inform that bug to uh, by reporting it, right? So usually they contain the data of what type of bug and the possible ways of correcting it. So that comes the bug reporting part, where you report your bug, whenever and wherever you find the bug, you just report it to the in a tool or to the manager, whatever is your process in your project comes. Okay. So third step is bug fixing. So after the bug are fixed, they should be tested one more time to make sure that the software works properly and correctly as per expectation. Okay. So next is final is bug list creation. So this is a document that contains all the information of bug that could occur during the project performance, and the team often use these bug lists because the similar bugs occur in the future also. You can get a similar types of bug. So this will help them to go through go through that document, and then try to see the solution, what all solution they have written, and then try to fix those bugs. So that is basically a documentation. Okay. So this is all about the bug management, that how you will manage those bugs. Now comes the bug life cycle. So this is also called defect life cycle or bug life cycle. Okay. So where when you report a bug, this is the bug life cycle you follow. Okay. So you go under these many steps. So once you start, like you find a bug, when you start your when you start testing your application and execute your test cases, you suppose you find a bug. So how you report a bug? First, you will make it a new. Okay. So after ensuring that it is a bug, and you find that it is the expected and the actual result is not matching, so you will go to the tool and you say that it's a new bug, and uh, and this is the first stage of your bug. Okay. After you log a bug, it will be new, and then the next step is it is assigned to the particular developer. Okay, once you report a bug, it will assign to a particular developer who has done that particular coding part. Okay, so this bug is assigned to corresponding developer in the development team. Clear? Mm. Next step is the developer will see that whether this bug is actually a bug or not. Okay, so there is some fighting between tester and the developer that no, this is not a bug or this is a bug. This comes when the bug will be active. If it is a bug, if developer says that yes, it's a bug and it is a deviation from actual result and the expected result, so then the bug will be active. Once the developer approves that yeah, this is a mistake and this is a defect which tester has found is correct, so they make this bug active. Okay, in this case, after that they will either fix the bug, they will test the bug first. The developer will test this, and then um, sorry, that then the developer will fix the bug, and then again it goes to the testing team, and then testing team will again retest that bug, and if it is fixed, then it will verify and close the bug. Okay, the tester team will verify or close the bug. So this is the uh, like normal scenario. Now if the tester is says that no, this is still exists, that bug is still exists, so then he or she will reopen that defect. Okay, defect or bug, he'll reopen, and then again it will be in on active state. Clear? And then they will test, and then they will verify and close. Now again in the active state, when this comes to the active state, the the developer can reject that bug, that no, this is a rejection is also in 2 or 3 ways. Rejected by either it is a duplicate bug, or it's a or developer can reject the bug by saying that it's a deferred bug, or you can say that that functionality is not yet uh, incorporated, so it will come in the next release, so that you can say that it's a deferred bug which will be incorporated later. So in this build, this is not incorporated, and we don't want to incorporate that defect here, so we are making it deferred. Clear? Or it can be duplicate also, as I told you, it can be duplicated or deferred. So these are the few steps of defect life cycle or a bug life cycle. If you have any question or if you have any inputs, you can give. Okay, Anand, do you want to add anything on this?
It's pretty much, very much covered, Chavi, on the
Okay,
defect life cycle. So
okay.
actually, we can deep dive again if at all any question comes up. It may
Yes,
not come up in all of a sudden. So
yeah,
when you think through and go through the document, if you have
yeah,
any doubts, guys, please we can discuss it in the next session also. It's not
yes.
that we are done with this and we are moving to the next topic. So we
Mm-hmm.
want to keep it interactive, and so that we can clarify our doubts in the next session too, so that we that is how we learn from each other. And our experience probably will definitely will help you out in clarifying the doubts.
Yeah,
So just to get, uh, can I share my screen? I mean, if you are running out of time, everybody, we can revisit next in the next meeting, I will show you the test case template, test plan template, and traceability matrix. If you are okay, I can even show in 5 minutes. It is up to you. So probably in the interest of time, we can wrap the session if everything is done. Unless we don't have any questions, we can wrap the session today.
So
So
I
any
do have a
questions?
question. Sorry. Can I go?
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
I
yeah,
have
please,
one
Nila.
question, but I am now
Yeah.
getting very curious because all the implementations I did, I absolutely did not do testing because we had very Hyperion is a different animal altogether. So mostly it was UAT
Right.
and the end user testing. So what I am
Okay.
very curious about is a case scenario, a real life case scenario. Do you have any documents of case scenarios which I can read? Like which has like
Yeah,
a,
yeah, I will share it.
yeah, some like
I will
some
share one or two
documentation.
documents.
Yes.
Yes, I do have, for example, Orange HRMS. It's a HRMS application where it will take you through the test plan, test cases, all these things. I will share you before the next class in a group. Okay, or we can put it in a drive and I will give you the access. Do let me know your email ID and I will give you the access to those documents also.
Sounds great. Thank you so much.
Okay, this is Dave. I just have a parting comments. Thanks, Chavi. Thanks, Anand. Thanks all of you for joining in. So what are we looking to do here, right? So it's a 5-phase project. One, in a 6 weeks, on the next 6 weeks, you will undergo at an overview level what is the quality assurance life cycle is, right? What's the automated quality assurance is using Selenium. Okay. At a conceptual level, you will understand. Now, to even think, okay, in 6 weeks, I will come up to the speed of what Anand, who has done this for 24 years, or Chavi, who has done this for 12 years. So we are kidding ourselves. No. Okay. Because it's evolving. As I said, learning, unlearning, relearning new things. But at a holistic level, you'll get a good grip of it. Then, second phase is having a resume which has the bells and the whistles, which is going to help you towards getting more attention from the vendors and the clients. The third phase is to help you prepare and spoon feed you as to how to tackle the vendor interviewing, right? So there will be investment done primarily from the recruiting team member, HR team member, because we work with most of the Indian outsourcing primary vendors. So we know what they are looking for, right? There is a phrase which I have coined called Sasta Sundar Tikau, SST. Okay, they need a comparative resource that's called Sasta. They need Sundar, meaning they want the resource which will have at least the resume will have all the bells and whistles in his or her resume. And Tikau, Tikau meaning someone who can withstand for the entire life cycle of the project. So to give them that, to have that in their resume, as well as to give them that confidence that you are that resource, that is the vendor interview preparation. Then comes the fourth phase is the client interview preparation. All the big system integrators, they're doing project or they are doing people placement. Then the final interview is typically by the client or the client manager. Okay, often it is a local American who will be doing the functional technical interview, right? So along with the technical interview, it is your attitude, personality, can do. So again, each of that interview, it's going to be unique in a way because each client has a different requirement. So again, the trainers will jump in the fray towards that client interview because that's the that's your rising up to the occasion. You give your best, you give your 100% with the help of the trainer. So a day before the interview, the trainer will again help you prepare, make sure you have all the do's and don'ts, have a question bank, have the answers, do a mock session, simulation session. By doing so, after 2, 3, 4, 5 interviews, you'll get a job. Once you get a job, again, the challenge gonna be the theoretical concepts are cleared. Uh, Based upon that specific questions, you have gotten literally mugged up the answer, and like a parrot or like a robot, you have answered those things. But the day-to-day challenges could be everlasting challenges and could be out of the syllabus questions when you're on a project. Then at that time, again, you will be stuck. So because you will be in the WhatsApp group, because there'll be trainers and all, at least for the next, once you're on a project, at least for the next 2 to 4 to 6 months, we will be there with you in terms of the trainers will be shadowing you, whether it's Chavi or Anand or the other team members, even the HR will be in that group. So whenever you run into issues, it becomes a fraternity, right? There'll be at least 8, 10 members of you. You will try to help each other. And then if that doesn't get resolved, then the trainers jump in the fray and they help you minimize that escalation. So that's what you will get through. Then practice makes you perfect. You will able to dodge the bullet, sustain on that project. And with every project experience, or with every passing day, you will be a better improvement of yourself when it comes to learning the QA automation using Selenium. That's what you will expect, because I have seen some of the candidates and I have seen one particular person, not in this class, but in another class, they said, well, I don't think so. I'm at par with what this trainer is. And that was a wrong comparison. So don't compare or don't even think that, you will come or match to the shoulder of what the trainer is. No, the intent is here not to come up to the speed of the trainer. The intent is here to get a job. Okay. And that's what our responsibility. So have an eye on the prize, and the eye on the prize is how can I get consumed by the corporate America in terms of getting a job? And that's what we will be focusing on in the first 4 to 6 weeks. We'll be training, and then the focus will be on placement. Okay. Is that a good overview? Just to wrap up and summarize the session.
Sounds great. Thank you.
No problem. That's all I have for you. Typically, these are anywhere between 1.5 hour to 2 hour sessions. Sometimes first session goes a little longer. So I thank you all for your patience. Good night.
Thank you, Dev. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Dev, sir. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much.